Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, give me the queen, bro. That's what I'm gonna take, homie. But I mean, pawns can be queens too, so you never know, man. But how you guys doing today? I appreciate you guys for stopping by. So we do have the Sinquefield Cup going on right now. This is day number 1. In the first round, we got Wesley versus Alireza Firouzja. Classic battle. So actually, I heard that these guys are competing for one of the candidate spots for the World Championship cycle. So, I mean, it's kind of coming down to both of them. So we'll see if Wesley can, make his way into the candidacy for playing a World Championship, man. So not only would he be, the 960, but he has the potential getting into the candidates to be the other World Champion. Anyways, man. I don't know people coming from the Philippines. I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking mga kaibigan. Magandang umaga. I appreciate you guys very much for coming by. It's pretty early. It's like 8 something in the morning over there. Anybody who is coming from France, I will say bonjour. Comment ça va? Comment allez-vous? Ça me fait plaisir de te voir. Mes amis, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Merci beaucoup. Anybody who is coming from Iran, I will say salam. What's the how you say thank you? I'm tripping. Mercy. Well, Haley Mamnoon. Mercy as well. Anyways, man, I appreciate everybody from the world for coming by. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look, see what we got for this game. Bam, gotta do that. So we got the move D4, one of the best by tests. Knight to F6. We got C4, we got E6, and then we do see Knight to F3, and this is known as the anti-Nimzo, because as you guys were probably aware from the last video one of the other videos that I did, when you go Knight to C6 first, you do invite Bishop to B4, the Nimzo Indian, and you are kind of, letting black control this E4 square. So we do not see that in this position. So we're kind of seeing, what does black want to do here? So we do see the move D5, very, very super common move. We do see Knight to C3. And if we see Bishop to B4 here, we would be looking at the Rogozin. It has a lot of very similar ideas, but you have delayed the development until you kind of saw what black was doing a little bit. We do see the move C5. And this is definitely one of the top moves. It's kind of low on the list. It's about 6th from the top. So you usually see some other moves, just basically making sure, everything is kind of solid here, developing and things like that. We do see pawn taking D5, and this has gotten into what is called the Semi-Tarrasch of the Queen's Gambit decline. You guys know that when you play D4, D5, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a C5 coming, either a C6, C5, or just a C5 straight away. And it's just the perfect move to go ahead and try to undermine your center, because as you guys know, this pawn and this knight are really kind of holding the E5 square pretty heavily. We do see pawn taking D5. Like I said, we got pawn taking D4. And then we do see knight taking D4. It is more common to see queen taking D4 in this position. You do see some knights taking D4. It's probably played about half of the time. So definitely not a rare move, but we do see that by Wesley. So we do see knight taking D5. And then we do see bishop to D2. And Wesley was just like, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and, just protect my knight with the bishop. This is definitely like a good diagonal to get on, especially after this bishop develops. Maybe you can have some tenderness on this G7 square. We do see bishop to C5, and this is attacking the undefended knight as of the moment. We do see knight to B3, and then bishop goes back to B6. And we are still keeping an eye on this F2 square with this bishop. As you guys know, these pawns next to the king can be kind of ticklish, if you will. So we do see the move G3. We got castles by black. Bishop goes to G2. And now we have kind of gotten somewhat into like a Catalan type of a situation. It's definitely not like completely a Catalan, but for those of you that do play the Catalan, this will be a structure that you are kind of familiar with here, with this bishop attacking this long diagonal. So sometimes it can be a little tough for black to try to get their pieces fully developed over there. We do see knight to C6. We got castles by white. We got knight taking C3 and then the bishop taking C3. And we have actually reached a point in the game. Before we get to the novelty, we have reached a point in the game where black plays a very nice move. They have a very nice idea with this move that they play. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess that move, go ahead and do so. Okay, so it's not that the idea is so nice, but what you have to look at for both sides of the board is white is pretty much fully developed. They just kind of maybe have to do something with their queen to get their rooks connected, but they're pretty much developed all the way. So one of the things, if you are black, that you do need to be thinking about is what are you going to do with this bishop? So I was mentioning before that this bishop being on this diagonal is pretty dangerous, but you have to kind of do something with this bishop. It's not really fully logical to try to fianchetto it, and you definitely don't want to put it on d7, right? So how do you try to rectify that? Well, we see the move e5 in this position, and you are just having a clear idea of saying, hey, man, I want to get my bishop to here, maybe to here, maybe even to here. I will be mentioning what bishop to g4 might be doing a little bit later, but this is actually also the novelty of the game. So if you guess the move, then you guess the novelty and what black needs to try to do to make sure that they maintain what, you know, white is doing, making sure everything is equal. We got queen taking d8, rook taking d8, and then we do see a rook f to d1. Now, this is the point that I wanted to stop and kind of mention something. So if we back up here, probably some of you guys might be thinking, okay, wait a minute. Like, this knight is the only thing that's defending this pawn, right? Like, can't I just go bishop takes c6, pawn takes, and then I could just win a free pawn, right? Automatically. Well, you would actually be correct, but then you would kind of not be correct. It is a free pawn, but it is going to give black something that we call initiative. So it's basically going to allow black to put a lot of pressure on your position. And that's not usually something that you want to do, give your opponent a whole lot of play. But if we do take a look at that situation, we would possibly be seeing bishop taking c6, pawn taking c6, and then the bishop taking e5, like I said. One of the major issues that's really kind of specific to a Catalan, and it's also present sometimes in some Queen's Gambit decline situation, is when this pawn is back here. And it's also, if you reverse it, for those of you that play the Grunfeld, this is definitely a common issue that you guys have as black with your e7 pawn. And so it allows black to get a good attack going on you and to really get their material back. Also, too, what you have just given black is you've given black double bishops and you have a knight versus a bishop. And then your knight isn't the greatest placed over here on b3. So those are just kind of something subtle. So if we kind of go a little bit forward, you would see rook to e8. The bishop would have to defend itself some kind of way. And then you would be seeing rook taking e2. And like I said, e2 is always something that you kind of have to be paying attention to. It was also possible maybe to go bishop to a6 to put some pressure on and stuff like that. And then these bishops are just real monsters and stuff like that. So, you know, those are just some ideas to keep in mind. But we did see rook f to d1. We see bishop to e6. We got rook taking d8, rook taking d8. We got bishop taking, so we do kind of somewhat see that idea, but it's after white, you know, both players get developed a little bit. Bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, and then we do have like a slightly different idea with knight to a5, and we are just going for, you know, we're going to be winning a pawn here at some point, bro. But we do see rook going over to c8. This is what was played in the game, and you're just basically saying, hey, man, you can go ahead and take my pawn right here. You know, I still do have ideas of getting my rook, you know, opposite here, attacking your bishop, stuff like that. Something that does have an honorable mention, obviously in this position as black, you know that you're going to be losing a pawn. Like, you're like, I'm losing one of those pawns. You just basically pick which one that you want to lose, right? But something that did have an honorable mention in the position is actually bishop to d5. And, you know, you just give one of the pawns. Of course, you still have the same idea if bishop takes here and then you got the rook coming down here. But, I mean, look at these bishops, bro. Like, it's nice. So it really doesn't feel like black is doing too bad, and they're really not. But going back to what we had, we did see rook to c8, like I said. We got b3 coming. We got bishop taking a5, bishop taking a5, which might look kind of strange. You're like, why did black just give their bishop up for the knight? Well, I mean, you get into a very even position, which is kind of what we've had for the most part. We got c5. We got king going to f1. We got c4. That is definitely one of black's weaknesses. Not really a weakness, but something that you kind of do want to get rid of if you are black is this isolated pawn right here. This is a little bit more beneficial because it's an outside pawn. So, I mean, it can definitely be a little bit better in, you know, king and pawn in games. But we do see c4. We got rook going over to c1. Pawn takes b3. Rook goes to c8 with check. We got bishop taking c8. We got pawn taking b3. We got the move f6. Black has a light square bishop, so you see that a lot of their pawns are getting on dark squares. You're just protecting the chain. You can freely move with the king on these light squares. You can also move with this bishop on these light squares as well. You got king going over to e1. You got bishop to d7. Bishop goes down to b4. Bishop to e6. We got bishop going to c5. So both players are mutually like, bro, I'm going to capture one of your pawns, bro. We got bishop taking b3, bishop taking a7, and then we do see a repetition. Because the players cannot offer a draw. You have to kind of get into a position where you're going back and forth. And so basically both of these players just played a really, really good game. And it is after bishop to a7 that we do see a threefold official repetition. And the game is drawn. So, you know, both players were basically like, you know, hey, I was trying to play pretty solid for the tournament. You know, Wesley so mentioned that he's, you know, hasn't been playing his best chess this year. So he was like, man, I just wanted to play as solid as possible. So even though, you know, draws aren't the most exciting ever, sometimes you get in situations where both players just play very, very good, solid moves. And it just ends up in a draw. So that is that first game. I will be trying to maintain, you know, showing each game per day. But I appreciate you guys very much for coming by. Maraming salamat aking mga kaibigan. Posa na nunod ng aking mga video. Merci beaucoup, mes amis, for watching my stuff. Hailey Mamnoon, merci. And I'll see you guys next time.